Hi, I'm Rebecca Bradley. This is the Virtual Crime Book Club. Today is Monday, the 7th of August 2023. Today we are discussing The Retreat by Sarah Pearse. If you are watching this as a video and are not live with us now, be aware there will be spoilers throughout. So you might want to read the book or finish the book before you watch the video. If you are a member of the book club and are watching this to catch up because you couldn't make the meeting, I want to apologise for messing up with the dates and sending the email out at such short notice. Things were a bit hectic this month, so apologies if you missed the meeting because of my administration errors. So yes, we will get on now with the book. Thank you everyone who was able to turn out. So we will start with the usual questions. Did you enjoy The Retreat?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Except the ending.
Exactly. I fully agree with Lorna. I really enjoyed it. It was like fast paced and I wanted to know what was going on and everything. But the ending, I think we'll get to it, right?
Yes, we'll get to the ending. Okay. Does anybody disagree with what's been said so far? Did anybody not enjoy the book?
I didn't enjoy it that much. I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Same.
Okay. Right, we'll go with the majority first. What did you enjoy about The Retreat?
I just found it a complete page turner. I hadn't, it wasn't the sort of book I would have picked up normally, and I hadn't really expected to get into it that quickly. And I just it just drew me in, and I think I read it in 2 days, sort of idea. Well, 2 and a bit days. Yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed what was going on, and as Vera said, it was quite fast paced. And it was very difficult at times to figure out what was actually happening, who did it.
Yeah, I also like that it kept me wondering what exactly was going on, because he had some links to the past. We didn't really understand how, and then there were always lots of things happening. Yeah, I thought it was like a page turner. I liked it. I also read it very fast. It was very easy to read for me. So yeah, it was nice, really. I think it's a nice holiday, a beach read.
Yeah, anybody else want to say what they enjoyed about it?
I thought the plot was okay. Sorry. It was quite good.
Sorry. I thought the writing was very excellent and it got you right in the zone. It was very descriptive and got you right in the zone.
Yes, you enjoyed Sarah's writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Muriel, what were you saying?
I can't remember now. I forgot, sorry. The writing was okay. The plot, that's it. The plot was good, I thought. I liked the plot. But other things I didn't really enjoy.
Okay. Clark, what was it that about the book that just didn't fit with you?
It's a bit too, what's the word? There's too much. I mean, it's too intense. The people are I don't know. I've only just read it 2 days ago, finished 2 days ago, and I can't remember because I've been reading another thing since. I think it's too much of trying to grab all the almost stereotypes of detective stories. There's all the elements, too many of them maybe, in there.
You think it was busy?
Yeah.
Clark. Sorry, Muriel.
No, so sorry, carry on, Clark. Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, I've been reading it for the past 3 days as well, and I agree that it's really easy to read. Actually, I think it's generally well written, but I think it's ludicrously complex. You know, there are so many. I mean, the plotting is incredibly complex, and the characterization is incredibly simple. You know, so quite quickly, I just didn't care anymore. You know, I just maybe I'm just not clever enough to keep up with the plot, but you know, I just didn't care quite quickly. That was the main thing the main issue I had with it. And I thought that, you know, some of the twists and turns I thought were really effective. But I thought some of the twists and turns and revelations were also kind of verged on sort of melodrama, and were, you know, just seemed to be there for the sake of,
Yeah.
you know, doing something surprising, you know, as opposed to, you know, clinging on to reality almost, you know. So I just thought some of it was just, you know, unbelievable, basically, like poor old Bia, the first victim. It was like death by Spider-Man. You know, that was like the only way that she could have been. But I thought the twist that she was the body was really effective, and you know, because she hadn't been there until then. But you know, the thought that somebody had scaled the cliff to pull her over the balustrade. You know, it's like Spider-Man could kill somebody that way, but nobody else could do it. You know, almost. And I also, and the other thing that I had an issue with was, you know, it's maybe, you know, I joined this club to read books that I wouldn't read normally, and this is definitely a book I wouldn't read normally. So, you know, this could just be me that has this particular issue, and that is I really found that the kind of self-reflective, self-analysis, inner voice telling us every 5 minutes what Ellen's, and to a lesser extent Hannah's, you know, emotional and psychological state was, you know, I could really have done without that. And after about 100 pages of that, I just thought, I really can't be doing with this anymore. You know, and if she'd cut a lot of that out, the book could have been 100 pages shorter, quite honestly. You know, so I found that really sort of, you know, again, to the point of, oh God, do I have to read more of this sort of thing? You know, but that could just be me. And in fact, I've had a discussion with my wife about this, and it's possibly me that the problem is. It's not you, it's me, perhaps. But yeah, I find that quite difficult about this book.
I think it's a question of taste, right? I really enjoyed these parts that you did not like, Clark, which is when the characters are reflecting about, and we listen to their thoughts and things like that. So I really enjoy that because I enjoyed the character. So yeah, but I guess that if you are more interested in the plot and the action is.
I felt like Clark, it was an overkill on the character thoughts. It's too many times, as you say, there's something about a reflection on something. And it's as if the person has written about 3 or 4 books, but they put all the thinking into one book. So all the things they could have put into different books, it's all in there. They found ideas and they put it in there. Yeah.
Just
for me, for me, I thought the first 80% was good, but then it kind of let itself down about the last 20%. And because I was rushing to finish it off, I think about 15% of the last of the book was just her running around the island, falling over, getting up again. That was much too different.
Yeah, I felt it was too much visual, as if the writer was getting ready to hand their books over to a film production, and I could see John McClane in what was it called, the Die Hard 2 or 3, you know, and a woman instead of Bruce Willis. You know, that's the impression I had by the time I got to the end of the book.
This was the second book in a series, and Clark's already mentioned how self-reflective Ellen is. Did you feel you needed to have read The Sanatorium first to read The Retreat?
I think for me, yes, because I didn't know for sure there was a first book, but as I was reading, I guessed that there was, and I assume it had a bit of a background about her relationship with Will as well, and it kept referring to another case, which I assume was in the first book. So yeah, I mean, I always prefer reading books in order anyway, but yeah, I think it might have been a bit helpful to have read the first one.
I agree.
I didn't think it was needed though to know the story in the first book, because this one holds on its own. It's nice to know about the character.
Yeah, but that's your view. But my view is I would have preferred to have read the first book, because it did have it did mention quite a few things that I'm guessing was in the first book.
It's to do with the character, isn't it, that you want to understand when you're reading a series. You want to understand the character's journey, even though each book stands on its own plot-wise. It's the character's journey that you're following in a series.
Yeah, I mean, I think some books stand alone more if it's a second or third one, but for me, because previous things were mentioned quite a lot, which I was guessing was mentioned, was part of the first book. Personally, I would have preferred to read the first one.
Although it does explain the first chapter, chapter with nightmares, in a way you can see already what kind of person the character is, the detective, I mean.
But for me, it's more about the previous plot as well.
Right.
What happened, not just with regard to her character.
Yeah.
Lynn, did it detract from your enjoyment of The Retreat that you hadn't read The Sanatorium?
I don't think it detracted from the enjoyment. It just left me, with more questions about why she was the way she was. What was this case that she kept referring to? Was it in a previous book? But overall, I don't think it spoiled the actual reading of this book. No.
I would just like to say that I preferred coming into this, because very often the first in a series is all about just putting down the characters, whereas here we went in, you went in running. You knew there was a background. You knew that things had happened in her life before, and you could just get on with this. And I actually preferred reading it that way, and knowing there were things that had gone on in the past that she hadn't come to terms with, but it wasn't such a big deal for me that I didn't know them in detail. But it takes, I appreciate that Lynn likes to read them in series.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a big deal, because I said I still enjoyed this book, but my preference is to have read the first one first.
Yes, I agree with Lynn. I that's the way I like to read books. If it's a series, I like to read the first one first.
Yeah, what you're saying, Lorna, works pretty well with writing. Advice to writers is kind of write what you want to write, and then cut the first chapter, or cut the first paragraph, or cut the first sentence, and then you will get into it faster than you thought you needed to. Cut it and see if you can if it still works after you've cut it. And that's kind of what you're saying about chopping the first book off and jumping into the second one.
Although, I think that with this particular type of book, for me anyway, this is just a quick beach read, summer holiday type read thing. It was the plot, although well done in a lot of ways, was totally ludicrous. The characterization wasn't really, for all this reflectiveness, didn't really give any depth to the characters. So I think it was just a take it as you find it and move on. Enjoy it while it's there.
When she started out, she was on desk duty, taking a break. Do you think she was ready to take on that sudden death investigation when she did?
I think she had to be pushed into it. Yeah, she would never be ready. From the sound of what was happening to her, I think she would have never done it willingly, unless she was pushed like she was. I don't know.
And what about the fact that Will had? Hi, Janet.
Hi, sorry I'm so late.
No, don't worry. It's nice of you to join us. We're just going to continue and jump in when you can.
Lovely, thanks.
What about the fact that her partner had a connection to the island? Do you think she should have still been sent to investigate?
No, I thought that was an issue. I mean, I just can't believe that the
police,
a senior police officer would think it's sensible to send her to investigate when her partner is so involved with the developments on the island. I mean, that just made no sense whatsoever to me.
Yeah, but the trouble was because most of the force was caught into the mainland stuff. Well, that's what they were saying, that they couldn't dispatch anybody else, and that's why she ended up doing it.
Also, it's probably unlikely that anybody above her even knew that he was the architect, because who knows who's the architect of anything. So yeah, I asked the question, but it's probably unlikely anybody knew.
She knew.
She knew, yes.
Yeah.
She knew, you're right.
Yeah, shouldn't she have expressed a conflict of interests?
But
You would have
be
thought,
fair,
wouldn't you?
Then
to
it
be fair,
was
at the
supposed to
beginning,
just
they
be a
thought-
routine thing that she went to look over rather than have any real investigation. Nobody thought it was going to be a big deal when she was sent there.
No.
Because at the beginning they
true.
thought it was accidental, right? So at the beginning it wasn't even like a murder investigation. So it was an accident. It wasn't a big deal, but then she ended up staying there. So I think the justification was okay. But I agree with Lorna. It's a great beach read. You have to take it as it is. You cannot expect to be like real, because the plot is...
That's the thing with fiction. You just take it, don't you, as it comes and go with the flow.
Because I mean, there's no way that architect should have got an award for that place. If somebody could be pulled over a balustrade, that was an issue. The fact when they got to the end and there was all this wind and such like, and everything's getting blown everywhere, surely on an island you would have had shutters and everything that you pulled down.
Yeah, don't they look at the weather forecast?
Yeah, precisely.
Yes.
As I said, you know, don't take it seriously.
The Ledger family, their relationships were complicated. Did you connect with any of them? Because we saw them through different points of view. Did you connect with any of the family? The sisters?
Not really. I mean, I felt like in the book, the narrator was trying to pull you towards, is it Hannah? The one who didn't die. But I didn't feel anything towards her, so it didn't work for me.
I think because the characters were not really very rounded people, you know, it was more plot driven, that you couldn't really identify with the characters as such. What I did like was the fact we had three sisters and they didn't get on, because you know, I have three sisters and you pull together at times, but at other times you really don't want to know each other. And I thought that was a far more realized version of a family than this, we've been best friends from childhood and we'll never be parted type siblings that are very often portrayed in books.
No, I think that's true.
I didn't think the characters felt real to me. I couldn't relate to the characters at all.
Not individually, no.
No.
There were quite a few characters. Could you keep track of them all?
Yeah.
No, I kept forgetting who was married to who.
Well, I forgot about Caleb, who's the main culprit in the end. But but apart from that, I think I remembered who was who.
Still can't work out why B was killed. I was convinced it was Seth who killed her, but I can't really understand why Caleb needed to kill Beth, kill B rather.
B, yeah.
Yeah, so there was obviously more than one person murdered. Were you, as you were reading, were you trying to figure out who out of the group might have done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you reading it as a who done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And was your mind changing, or did you fix on somebody? Tell me your process.
Well, I think that earlier on, when it was just B and
Seth.
who was the next one to die,
Seth.
then at that point I thought, yeah, it's Caleb. But then they took in these older case, and I must admit I had difficulty in knowing how far back it was. You know, I was getting confused by this, you know, all the history of the island and the time scale all this was happening in, because then I was thinking, no, well, Caleb couldn't possibly be old enough to be involved at that, so therefore I'd put him aside again.
I thought it was Maya. I think it would have been better if it was Maya, because she had the motive to kill both Joe and Seth. Not Bea, yeah. She didn't have a motive, but okay. But I at the beginning I thought it was Maya, and then I was suspicious of Caleb, but maybe like, I don't know, 60-70% into the book or something. But for me, it would have been better if it was Maya, and they could create a motive for her to kill Bea. Although the murder of Bea is crazy, because how are you sure that someone will come to this place so you can pull her?
Exactly.
You attracted her there.
Phone call. She received a phone call, presumably asking to meet someone there. I wondered that as well, and I couldn't work out.
But they said that the phone call was
to the ledge. Cling to the
Phone
ledge.
call's from Joe, wasn't it?
The phone call was to Joe, because she met Joe at the beach or somewhere.
And that's what I thought it was Joe all along, until she got murdered. Because she was described as this really hateful sister. She was jealous of both of her sisters, one thing or another, and was very cold, and it's a weird thing. And I thought maybe, but why would she kill Seth? That was weird. There was a boyfriend, or maybe because she saw him do something. I don't know.
I also thought it was Joe for a long time, until she, like you say, until she got murdered. But that didn't add up with the old case, did it? Because she was too young.
Right.
So
we did see through Joe's point of view for quite a while as well, didn't we? So it's surprising when a point of view character gets killed off. So did that surprise anyone when Joe was killed off?
Well, it was so messy that I could believe that any of them could be killed, really, because I couldn't work out why. So it didn't matter to me.
Yeah. So was anybody right then in there when they were figuring out who the killer was?
No, only towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end I thought Maya killed Joe, because I didn't think she killed the others, but I knew that she'd killed Joe for some reason.
I thought it was Caleb about, I don't know, 50%, 60% of the book, but then the last 15, 20, 20%, I went off piste and thought it might be Will, because it seemed to me it was so obvious to be Caleb that it couldn't be that undramatic. So I decided it might be Will, and that his sister was, pretending to be really badly injured, and that she would pop up and attack her in the apartment. I think that might have been better, but it did keep you guessing, which is good.
I thought it was Will at one point. This month, the theme was destination crime. How well did the destination play its part in this book?
I felt it was quite a confused destination, because really all this island did was provide the locked room situation, really. You know, you seem to go from this luxury resort into absolute wilderness to into a quarry, and I found it quite confusing, because again, it's got this luxury resort which you could easily fall out of down a cliff, or you could have gone for a walk and fall down a quarry. It, you know, it didn't gel as a whole place I could visualize, but it did as an isolating.
Yeah, I thought the destination was kind of weird as well, because for those reasons, but also I couldn't. There's a sort of turning it into a character thing where Ellen often ascribes a personality to the island. You know, it's the sort of thing that ghost stories do. You know, it's like the haunted house is after me, or the island was after her, and I thought that was kind of strange as well. You know, it's not the island, Ellen. It's somebody trying to kill you. You know,
Yes.
and also this thing about the island as well. I totally understand Lorna's point. I mean, I couldn't work out the size of the island either. I couldn't get my head around the geography. I was like 200 pages in, and I discovered there was a quarry on that. Where the hell did that come from? You know, that was kind of weird as well. You know, things kept appearing on the island that I hadn't realized were there.
I just thought if you went to a luxurious resort, you'd probably go a bit further away than, I don't know, 10 minutes off the coast of Devon, which is, and also with guarantee, you know, better weather, more guarantee of better weather.
Yeah, I know
it's Maybelline.
I found that the person who did all the research came up with all of these things and tried to link them all together somehow. It's like crowbarring some of the details to fit with the story, like the quarry.
So it didn't feel particularly like a destination. More like, you think it was more like a locked room than a
destination? And it was more like a character. She tried, I agree that, and she tried to make the island as a character of the book. Although this type of islands exist, because I've been to an island where they filmed Survivor, one of these TV shows in Cambodia, and we had a resort, a very nice resort with a beach and everything. But then if you went like 50 meters behind, you had this forest, no roads at all. You had like animals and things. You could not go. There was no roads or anything. So there are these type of places. But
usually further away. Yeah, not off that. Not in the UK.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They are pretty brutal, aren't they? Behind the bit further back.
And I was trying to work out if this was meant to be some sort of closed room thing, but with lots of people in the room. But actually, it's not a closed, you know, because amazingly, people come and go. You know, like even after Ellen thought that there were murders, there were still people leaving the island.
The island,
really bizarre to me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go on to the ending. It was mentioned at the start that you were disappointed by the ending. What disappointed you about the way it was ended?
Well, for me, it was a case of, I think it was Linus that said it, this last section of the book, all you had was this mad chasing about and this heroine being, you know, it was definitely sort of, I'll get my arm chopped off and I'll, there's bits of my ribs broken, but I'll still keep going on. And when our sergeant says, no, you stay still, you're injured, I'll go and chase him. No, I'll carry on. It's blowing a tornado gale over there. I'll just lean this ladder against the cliff and climb up it. No bother at all. It was that sort of, I can accept ludicrous fiction for fiction just to go with the story, but it just went OTT totally. And if this is, she was a police person, And if it's a police procedural, it would have been really good if they'd actually got round to taking statements, arresting people, and just doing things properly. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
But you enjoyed it.
I did. But, you know, as I said, I enjoy, by the end of it, I thought they could have cut down that chase by an awful lot. And by the time, let's say, she was climbing that cliff, when this ladder that was really firmly stuck there in this wind, I was losing it a bit by then.
Who else has thoughts on the ending?
I've also enjoyed the book, but I did not like the ending that much. Also because I agree, the chase was a bit too long. Could have been like half of it, and there were lots of plot twists. So I think she took this plot twist a bit further than she should. And I think the plot was too complex because there were the murders in the past, and it was the father of Caleb, and Caleb wanted to get revenge, and then all the murders, and then he killed Bea because Bea found out that something was going on. But it was like, for fuck's sake, it was like together with her, and he kills her. So I think it was the plot was too complex. But that said, I really enjoyed it. I read it very fast. It was a page turner. I had fun. So yeah.
I also thought it was a shame that, you know, it was Steed who rescued her in the, you know, she had done all this work. She'd worked it all out. She knew who the killer was. She'd successfully done the detection. And then at the end, she needs to be rescued by her male sidekick, you know, at the very last moment, when, you know, she's about to be killed, perhaps, yeah. And I thought that was a slightly strange decision after taking us so far into this book, where she had been set up as the person who had kind of reaffirmed her life and, you know, regained her confidence and proved herself that she could do this. And then on the final page, oh, actually, you know, she has to be rescued by her male sidekick, who is another of these characters that doesn't really exist in the book, you know, apart from we know what his name is and he does a few things, but we've no idea anything about him. But suddenly he turns up at the end and rescues her. I thought that was pretty weird as well.
Yeah, I thought the ending was too much like different types of stereotype endings of detective stories, not the good type, where there is an ending and the hero or heroine in this case is lying in hospital, battered, bruised and everything, and with their beloved next to them. And then there's another ending, another twist. There's Maya killing Joe. You know, it's very boring.
Were you, just to go back to the comment about Steed, would it have worked better if there had been a struggle there and Steed would have been injured for her to then...
Well, why did he appear in the first place at all? I mean, she could have, the story could have been that she just handled it herself and that's it. I mean, she didn't have to be badly. I mean, she suffered all this pain all that time. And then suddenly, as Clark says, she can't do it.
I mean, also, I think Steve was very underwritten. Like Clark said, you didn't hear anything about him. So much underwritten that, again, at one point I thought he might be the murderer for some bizarre reason.
Yes.
Was anybody surprised by the way it ended?
No. Well,
I think, like Lorna said, it was just over the top. Not only just the action bit, but running up that stone and the fight on top of the stone, and he kept changing his mind and he was crying, and then he nearly killed her, and then he didn't. It was just a bit over the top.
Yeah, I think the idea of using a stone was at the beginning had to be put in at the end, and I think is, although it wasn't obviously the stone that killed everybody, it had to be there for the end. Yeah, well.
So I'm going to say nobody was really satisfied with the ending.
I quite like the reason why it was given that Maya killed Joe, that she kind of was responsible for the fire to begin with. I quite like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do we think of the suspicious tweeter?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Again, I thought that might be Will.
I think it's related to the serial killer that she didn't put away. I did not read the first book, but she makes references to this serial killer that she didn't put away, and that's why she had to take like a leave. Because I think in the first book she's on leave because she's going on this holiday with Will and her brother or something. So I think Twitter is related with this guy, with the serial killer. Is probably a story that will develop in the next one. Yes.
Yeah.
Will anybody go on to read another of this series?
No, I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Maybe I still have some beach holidays coming up. So who knows?
If someone gives it to me as a Christmas present, I might.
I was thinking more if I found it in a hotel, you know, if you do often find somebody's discarded book, you might.
You do.
I might Google a summary of the first book, and then I'll Google a summary of the third book when that's published. I don't mind to know what's gone on, but I don't particularly want to read it in full myself.
So you want to find out what happens?
Yeah.
Reading the whole 90,000 words. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about the retreat?
No.
I mean, it did say the guy who was jailed for the murders that he was going to be released, but he should have got compensation as well.
Might have to pay for his board and lodgings though.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag for the book this month. Enjoyable to an extent if you leave your disbelief at the door for the majority of the time. Are we going with that one?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.